As quite possibly the most iconic cryptid in American and Canadian folklore, Bigfoot has grown into a cultural icon. Some people dismiss its existence as an elaborate hoax, a complete myth, while others adamantly insist that not only Bigfoot is real, but that they've seen them themselves.
Oh yeah, and that actually includes residents from right here on Delmarva. Yeah, and whether you're a skeptic or a true believer, you have to admit it is an interesting topic. It's a topic that author and amateur historian Andy Nunez has covered in the past, and he joins us this afternoon with more. Andy, good to see you.
Oh, great to be here.
Studio D. And this is a fun subject. Bigfoot,
yes.
Sasquatch,
yes.
the skunk ape, which I've never heard of, the swamp
Florida
monster. These are all names referring to this creature?
Yeah, kind of a common phenomenon, but it's got these local names like the skunk ape in Florida and swamp monsters and things like that. I mean, it goes back to the abominable snowman, the Yeti from the Himalayas, and this is our own version.
Okay.
So who knew there was going to be some on Delmarva?
So here on Delmarva, where have some of these sightings been of Sasquatch?
Kind of all up and down. There's the story of the invisible screaming Yahoo of Craddockville down in eastern shore of Virginia, right on up through the Georgetown, Delaware area. People have sworn this is what they've seen.
Okay, so can you describe some of the encounters that these people have had?
Some of them have been pretty benign, like, carload saw two Bigfoot following a herd of deer across Route 404, or two fellas down in Berlin area just happened to be driving by under Suburban. There was a Bigfoot standing there by the road, stuff like that. But, some of the things like the invisible Yahoo of Craddockville, nobody knows exactly what they look like, and of course the Pocomoke Forest has a Bigfoot sightings in there too. So, a friend of mine I went to college with, she saw this thing cross the road right in front of her one night. She was coming home and found these big footprints in her garden. So you just never know what. And of course, then there's the Selbyville swamp monster, which was a hoax.
Oh, that was a hoax?
That was, well, depending on who you talk to. There really was a hoax, though. And this was in 1964. There was a newspaper there called the Delmarva News, and they were trying to boost their readership. So they convinced this guy named Fred Stevens to put on his aunt's old raccoon coat and put on a mask and some wool pants and go down on Route 54 through the old cypress swamp there, the burnt swamp, and stand out there. People would come and they'd see him, and it sold a lot of papers.
I think I heard about that one.
Yeah, it's a pretty popular thing. But what happened was people started coming with guns, and so Fred decided it wasn't really worth the risk.
No.
But other people swore that they really were these things going back as far back as Indians, and talking about them, and hunters in the 1920s said there was something out there. When you go by there, it's a spooky spot.
Yeah.
You got to admit, you go through there at night, it's kind of eerie. Is there something there? Who knows?
So why do you think Bigfoot is so interesting?
Well, Bigfoot is so interesting because it's sort of an American monster.
Okay.
There's Bigfoot out in the hills there, the Rockies and California and all those places, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Western Shore. Why not Eastern Shore?
Sure.
We've got our Pocomoke Forest, we've got the Selbyville Swamp, we've got lots of places for Bigfoot to hide in. I mean, as recently as a couple of months back, I had a whole family tell me, and they were from the Georgetown area, that they had evidence of a Bigfoot on their property. So the legend continues.
Well, with all of the cell phone cameras, hopefully we'll start getting some pictures, and ring cameras, and dash cams. Maybe we'll see them. Andy Nunez, thank you so much. It's always good to have you in.